All right. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, other. It is April 23rd, and today was a very exciting day because let me tell you what passes for excitement in my days in quarantine. Um, at the beginning of this year, I had bangs. I had bangs right across there. And during tax season, it was just not possible to go get them cut. Um, from my hairdresser. My hairdresser doesn't work on Sundays. And I work all the other days. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna grow them out. And on April 15th, when I have like a spa day, or the Friday after April 15th, I typically have a spa day. I'll just go get them cut like the day before, and like it'll be great. Well, welcome to quarantine. There are no hairdressers. um, so I'd been pinning them back basically because I don't trust myself to cut my own bangs. It will not end well. It will not be pretty. um, anyway, so I'd been having to pin them back because they were way too long in my face. But we finally got to the day, guys, where they fit back in my ponytail without having to pin them back. Not all of them. There's still this like little one right here that's just like chilling. He won't fit quite yet. He's almost there. He's almost there. But that is pretty much what passes for fun or excitement in quarantine. It's really not a lot. Um, I did go to the grocery store today. I had to run out to my office. And while I was out, I was like, you know what, I might as well just stop at the grocery store too, because I hadn't been in a while. And, I was running out of things like milk and bread and fruit. So I was like, all right, I'll go do a shop. And it was really nice to see that supply chains are like revamping and coming back, and people are stopped panic buying, more or less. Um, People still cannot understand that you're only supposed to walk one way up the aisle and that there are arrows telling you which way to walk up and down every aisle. It is a little annoying because sometimes I'm like, you know, I want to go up that aisle, but it's coming the other way, so I have to go up the other aisle just to come back down that aisle. So that can be a little annoying, but you know what? Whatever. It'll if it helps, it helps. And it's also like you now line up. At least at my grocery store, you line up and to stop people from being in lines in like the checkout lines, everyone gets in one big line, like 6 feet apart, obviously. And then they have people designate you like which line to go in, so that people aren't holding too many people up. But yeah, most things are back on the shelves, aside from toilet paper and paper towels and stuff like that. But which kind of I'm like, everyone flipped out about toilet paper, and I didn't really think about paper towels. I was like, quick, let me check my toilet paper, and like I was fine. And I showed you guys the other day about like the giant roll. Um, but paper towels, I'm like, I only got 2 rolls of paper towels left. So it didn't help that this one kept having accidents in the house. If she didn't have accidents in the house, I probably used a whole roll of paper towels just cleaning up her accidents. Just because she was on the medication that made her like kind of incontinent. Um, but it's okay. Yesterday she had her last bit of that, so hopefully today was the last accident. Fingers crossed. She's normally really, really well house trained, so the only time she does have accidents with me is when she is on this medication. Um, so hopefully that's like we're hoping there. We're hoping. Um, but yeah, it was funny how normal that was becoming. Also, there's only like a certain amount of people allowed in the store at any given time. So like typically the stores have 2 entrances and exits on each side. My like flight attendant thing. But like on each side of the store, right? So you can park on either side of the parking lot and just go into whatever door is closest to you. Now there's like one is the entrance and one is the exit. You can't go in or out the other side if it's not right. There's someone at the front door with a walkie-talkie and someone at the exit with a walkie-talkie, and they're keeping tallies of numbers of how many people go in and out of the store, so that there's only a certain number in the store at all times. The wine aisle is finally like pretty much fully restocked. Like we're not 100% there yet, but it was like at 75% there, which is really nice. I grabbed a couple bottles of champagne, and they were like, "Oh, are you celebrating?" I was like, "No, I'm just bored, and I like champagne, and I have orange juice. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll be fancy tonight. Supposed to have some bad thunderstorms tonight, so I want to get Daisy out to walk before it starts raining, but it has been gray all day. It is not pretty. Um, anyway, so that happened. I'm trying to think of anything else happened in the world or in my life. Oh, I decided last night that, so basically last night I was watching TV and I was like, man, I wish I had something to like do with my hands while I'm watching TV, and I was really bored. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure months ago, like before I got Daisy, kind of months ago, I had started working on a friendship bracelet. And I was like, ah, man, I wonder where that is. Found it in my room. I was like, all right, great, guess I'll finish this. So I started doing it. And as I was doing it, I was like, I want to do something tactile. Like I want to do something with my hands. I want to do something crafty. And so, ladies and gentlemen, and various others, um, we have reached the craft portion of quarantine. We went through the baking portion, through the cooking portion, through the reading books portion. We're now at the craft portion. We did skip the hair dyeing portion only because Overtone was so backed up that I could not get hair dye here for a cheap enough amount in a quick enough amount of time. So I decided, I was like, all right, well, what can I do? My mom and I learned how to knit together when I was like 8. Actually, no, I have been older than 8. Revamp. 12? Or maybe I was even younger. I don't really remember. What I do know is somebody got me for my birthday one year. And they got me this like book, right? It was like a beginner's knitting book, and it came with like needles and this like blue yarn that was like just honestly really crappy material. It was what you expect in a children's beginner's book, right? And for some reason, I like put it on my shelf and I like never touched it again. And then a couple years later, see, I had to have been older than 8 because I'm pretty sure my parents were divorced at this point or separated. That didn't happen until I was 10. But like, I feel like I was pretty young. So, hell, maybe I was 10. Maybe it was that year. Maybe I was 11. I don't know. Anyway, that year, I pulled the book back out and I was like, Mom, I want to learn how to do this. And she was like, well, I don't fucking know how to knit. My mother, lovely woman, lovely woman. Uh, not the most domestic of women in existence ever. Um, I learned most of my domestic skills from my father, who in turn learned them from his mother, who is potentially the most domestic woman ever in existence. So, like, one time my mom literally burnt tea. Woman could not cook, and she got in this like kick where every week she would make this giant pot full of, I think it was called like yogi tea or something. I don't know. She was on a health cleanse bike kick at the time. And so every like Sunday she would boil like a big pot of water with like cinnamon and cloves and chives and whatever else in a big pot, and it would make this like tea that she would drink like throughout the week. So one time she calls down from upstairs and she's like, Maddie, turn the water off. I was like, what? She's like, on the stove, there's a pot of water with stuff in it. I looked in the pot and I'm like, no, there's not. She had literally been boiling it so long, it all completely evaporated, and she was just scorching the bottom of the pan with like the cinnamon stick and stuff in it. Um, so yeah, after my parents got divorced or got separated, I was the one who cooked for like a while because my cooking skills were like a very tiny bit higher than hers at the time, but they were fairly comparable. She did get better with time. She was very good with the recipes. She could read things out well, but it was just like woman was not drawn to the kitchen. Let me tell you. Um, anyway, so yeah, then I asked my mom to teach me how to knit. She's like, I don't fucking know how to knit. So we're like, all right, let's learn together. And there was actually, there still is, a knitting store in Chestnut Hill, which is where my dad and my stepmom live now, which is the little, it's a section of Philadelphia next to the section I was living in at the time, that area. There's a knitting store called the Tangled Web. And we're like, all right, we got this. So then we went, my mom got a pair of needles and string and was like, all right, let's start. And I remember she and I sitting in our dining room at our table, and we were like both like, all right, looking at the book. We're going off the beginning children's book. All right, we have the stick in the hand. We put the other one through. We wrap. So that night we learned how to knit, and we both were like, all right, we're gonna knit. And hers ended up looking janky. Mine ended up looking really janky. And I was like, okay, I'm done. And then she actually got really into it and she kept knitting. She ended up being real into it and would knit people like neck covers and scarves, and she one time knit her mom like the poncho thing. Um anyway, yeah, she got real into it. And then every once in a while, like I don't know what it is. I guess just the skill or like the knowledge of how to physically do it never left me. So every once in a while, I'm just like, huh, I'll knit a scarf, and I'll just pick up some sticks and some yarn and just start like going at it. And I'm actually not half bad, not to like toot my own horn or anything, but like really not half bad. As long as it's not complicated. Like I can follow instructions and can follow directions. I can't like freehand anything. Um, but yeah, so the other day, or yesterday when I was watching TV, I'm like, what am I gonna do? I want to do some crafting. I want to do some tangible. So I decided I'm going to knit a blanket, and it's going to be a bunch of squares. I haven't quite decided what the size of the squares are yet. I'm thinking like between 6 to 8 inch squares. So like about that ish, depending on how the wool goes. But then I came to from first off, I haven't knitted in years. So knit in years. So God knows how the first couple are going to come out, and then you have to stitch them all together to make a blanket. And I was like, well, the only needles I have here are really, really thin. And I'm like, I don't want something that thin because that's going to be a super tight weave. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't want that much work. And then I was like, well, wait, what am I going to do? I can't like go get wool or yarn or anything like that. And then I was like, it's okay. Let's get it off Amazon. But then it was such a pain in the ass. And then it was like nothing was in stock and everything was so expensive. And I was like, are the craft stores still open? So then I went to Michaels.com and the answer is yes. But it was just like nothing was in stock and all the colors were like not the colors I wanted. So finally I was like, why don't I just go to the manufacturer's website? So I did. It was all there. It was a lot cheaper. They were like, yeah, we'll send it to you in 2 to 5 business days. I'm like, fan-fucking-tastic. So hopefully in 2 to 5 business days, I will have my yarn and my new sticks, and hopefully I can start knitting a blanket. If it's really, really janky and awful, it will line Daisy's crate, and she'll be thankful for a warm thing. And if it looks good, I don't know, maybe I'll donate it or maybe I'll hang it up or something. We'll see. But yeah, all that to say, we've gone to the craft stage of this. I'm wondering, low-key, what's next. I do actually have I have this like, it's not a game so much. It's called like Hunt a Killer or something along those lines, and it's a murder mystery, and they give you all the evidence, and you're supposed to like figure out who did it. I bought it for a weekend with my girlfriends, and then we kind of thought it'd just be fun to do like somebody read it out loud as I was cooking dinner, but it ended up being a little too complicated. So, and we were a little too tipsy at the time, so we ended up not doing it. And I saved it. I was like, oh, well, we'll do it next time. But that might be my next project in quarantine after the blanket. We'll see. In the world, let's see what happens. Another 4.4 million Americans filed for unemployment this past week. bringing the jobless claims to over 26 million during the pandemic. That's not great. The California governor announced a 90-day forbearance period on student loan debt. I can get behind that. And Ruth's Chris Steakhouse returns the $20 million coronavirus small business loan that they got, partially because they're not a small business. I don't know if you guys know that. They're like a chain steakhouse that's like kind of expensive. No, very expensive and a bit overrated, not gonna lie. And they have them in the middle of the cities, in the middle of like the business sections. It's where businessmen on business trips go to eat power lunches or celebrate a contract being signed. So yeah, that's kind of happening. So good for them though. Good for them. That wasn't like, they probably don't need that as much as like actual small businesses do, especially because I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the small business loan money, it ran out of money. They'd set aside X amount of dollars, and everybody said, "Hey, we need it." They said, "Okay, here you go." And then when other people said we need it, they're like, "Well, we're out." They did just it got partially through. A new bill got partially through. I think it has to be voted on by the other side of Congress. So we'll see if that gets extended. It should pass. It should pass without a problem. They should have approved it. So it should add more money back to that so actual small businesses can get stuff. But it's nice that things like Ruth Chris Steakhouse and Shake Shack were saying like, okay, we don't need this as much as other people need it. Let's give it to the people who really, really need it first. So that's good. Always, to quote Mr. Rogers, always look for the helpers. But yeah, I think that's it for me today. I am hopefully going to get Daisy out on the walk before it's raining. Oh, Daisy. She keeps licking her paws, which she shouldn't do. It's like, because her paws are just messed up. It's just like constantly like licking your lips. And you're like, look, the more you do that, the worse they're gonna get, and then just the more you're gonna want to lick them. But try telling her that, man. Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. So, all right, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.